rich. That word makes people's eyes light up like a match in the dark. Say it once, and suddenly the room gets quiet. Suddenly every ear leans in. Suddenly every doubt takes a step back. Funny thing is, wealth isn't about money. It's about control. About how easily you can bend the world when you have enough of it in your hands. People chase it their whole lives, stumble, crawl, sell their souls for scraps. Yet when it's offered in a whisper, just one time, they'll throw away logic, caution, even their own heartbeat to grab it. The truth. Riches don't come to those who beg for them. They come to those who dare to listen, who catch the moment, who understand that one chance is all there ever is. Wealth doesn't arrive with drums beating and flags waving. No. It slips in quiet, almost shy, almost embarrassed by its own brilliance. A whisper in a crowded room. A phrase so soft most don't even notice it, but those who do, oh, they change their lives with it. That's the trick, isn't it? People expect fortune to roar, to come wrapped in grand announcements, to feel obvious, undeniable. They want flashing lights and guarantees. But the truth is, wealth hates the spotlight. It prefers shadows. It prefers silence. It prefers to pass by unnoticed, daring only those who are listening closely to catch it before it vanishes. And yet most miss it, because they're too busy looking for fireworks, while the treasure is hidden in the stillness. Think about it. Every empire, every fortune, every legend built on gold started with something so small, so laughably insignificant, that the crowd mocked it. They scoffed, they shrugged, they looked the other way. A man hears a tip, a woman sees a chance, and everyone else dismisses it as nothing. But that's the seed. That's the whisper. And those who pay attention to whispers end up standing on mountains, while those who wait for applause end up clapping for someone else's victory. Wealth never begs for attention. It tests your awareness. It hides itself in plain sight, in words you overhear, in opportunities that pass like shadows across your path. The question is simple. Did you notice? Or were you too distracted? The problem with people is they're addicted to noise. They believe loud equals real, that if something is valuable, it must announce itself, prove itself, convince them. But by the time it's loud, it's already gone. By the time the crowd hears, the feast has been eaten, and only crumbs are left on the table. The rich don't wait for proof. They listen in silence. They catch the faintest clue and move before anyone else realizes there was even a game being played. They understand that whispers are worth more than shouts, because shouts belong to the desperate. The latecomers, the ones who arrive when the doors are already closed. And here's the cruel irony. Most people wouldn't recognize fortune, even if it slapped them in the face. They're too busy chasing after the illusion of it, the polished lies sold to the masses, the promises that glitter but are hollow inside. They'll throw themselves into schemes because they sound grand, while ignoring the subtle chance right under their nose. Why? Because whispers demand trust in yourself. They demand you believe in your own instinct without waiting for the crowd's approval. And that's terrifying for most. They'd rather be broke together than risk being rich alone. Wealth is a whisper that only the bold hear. It doesn't care about the desperate, the greedy, the ones clawing and begging. It rewards the ones who can stand still in the noise, filter the nonsense, and recognize the single note of truth ringing in the chaos. And it only comes once. That's the part people never understand. It doesn't circle back. It doesn't wait for you to get comfortable. It passes. And if you're not ready, it's gone. People always say, "I'll get another chance." No, you won't. Not this one. This one is unique. This one is alive only now. And if you don't listen, if you don't move, you'll spend the rest of your life watching someone else live the life that could have been yours. The whisper is already there. In every room you walk into, in every decision you make, in every conversation you overhear. But you don't hear it because you expect wealth to shout. And while you're waiting for the roar, the whisper passes by, unnoticed, unclaimed, leaving you with nothing but excuses. Wealth comes in a whisper, and if you can't hear it, it was never meant for you. One chance is always disguised as a test, wrapped in discomfort, hidden behind something that doesn't look like a gift at all. That's the beauty of it. Opportunity never arrives wearing a crown, never comes neatly packaged with a golden bow. No, it arrives dressed as uncertainty, as struggle, as a door that feels too heavy to push. People think fortune is supposed to look beautiful, obvious, irresistible. But the truth is, the real prize looks like work, looks like risk, looks like madness. That's why so few ever seize it. They're too busy waiting for comfort, waiting for something easy, something guaranteed. But nothing guaranteed ever makes you rich. Only the test does, only the trial. Only the one moment that dares you to step forward when every part of you wants to run. The test is never announced. There's no sign that says, "This is it." It sneaks into your life disguised as a choice that seems small, almost irrelevant, a job you almost didn't take, a stranger you almost didn't talk to, a risk you almost ignored. That's the knife edge moment where your entire future hangs, but you'll only know it in hindsight. People curse fate, blame chance, cry that luck never visits them, when in truth they failed the test. They turned away because it didn't look like a miracle. They failed because they wanted comfort instead of growth. The opportunity didn't vanish. It was simply rejected. And isn't it strange how the test always demands the thing you fear the most? If you're terrified of speaking, it gives you a stage. If you fear failure, it offers you a gamble. If you hate leaving the familiar, it shoves you toward the unknown. That's no accident. That's design. The path to fortune always runs through the field of your fear, because what you're afraid of is exactly what keeps you chained. And the moment you step through it, when you spit in the face of the thing you dread, the door opens. But most never step through. They fold. They retreat. They let fear convince them the test is punishment instead of proof. The test is simple but merciless. Will you listen to the voice that whispers or the one that screams? Fear always screams. Comfort always sings sweet lullabies. But truth whispers. Wealth whispers. It dares you to pay attention when every distraction is trying to pull you away. And if you fail to hear it, if you wait for it to shout, you've already lost. One chance doesn't repeat itself. It doesn't wait around. It's gone before you even realize what you ignored. That's the trick. It only knocks once, softly. And if you're not awake, if you're not listening, the door stays closed forever. People don't like that idea. They want infinite chances, endless do-overs, a safety net stretched across the entire sky. But life doesn't work that way. It doesn't reward the ones who hesitate. It rewards the ones who jump the first time, who risk looking foolish, who endure the discomfort because they recognize the disguise for what it is. They don't need to see the gold to believe it's there. They trust the test. They trust themselves. And that trust is what makes the difference between those who build empires and those who sit in the shadows, wishing they had listened. One chance is all you ever get, and it never looks the way you thought it would. It looks like sweat. It looks like doubt. It looks like risk. But underneath the disguise, it's the very thing you've been waiting for. And if you don't recognize it, if you don't seize it, then you've already decided your future. Because chances don't vanish, they just move on to someone else who was brave enough to see the test for what it was. Greed blinds, but focus sharpens. That's the difference between fools and the ones who walk away with everything. Greed is messy. It makes your hands shake, your vision blur, your mind spin with fantasies of what you think you deserve. Greed screams, more, 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 until you can't even see what's right in front of you. And that's why so many people lose everything chasing it. They run after glitter, after noise, after promises so loud they drown out common sense. They mistake hunger for direction. And by the time they realize the difference, they've already stepped into the pit, already traded their chance at greatness for scraps that looked shiny in the dark. Focus, though. Focus is clean. It doesn't chase. It doesn't beg. It doesn't salivate at the first smell of wealth. Focus waits, sharp as a blade, precise as a sniper's eye. It doesn't get distracted by every glittering coin tossed in its path. It doesn't stumble toward every promise of instant gain. Focus knows exactly what it's hunting, and when the moment comes, it moves with precision. That's why the focused succeed where the greedy fail. Greed makes you a slave to desire, but focus makes desire your servant. One burns you out, the other builds you up. The world is full of traps dressed up as treasure, offers that look too good to resist, doors that promise fortune if you just step through without thinking. Greed is what pushes people through those doors. It convinces them they're smarter than the trap, that they'll beat the system, that they'll grab the prize before the jaws close. But greed is blind, and blindness always ends in blood. Focus, on the other hand, doesn't take the bait. It sees the wires. It studies the setup. It hears the silence that tells the real story. Focus walks away from 99 distractions to seize the one opportunity that actually matters. That's what most people will never understand. They think chasing everything is ambition, when really it's desperation. They scatter their energy, their time, their soul into every scheme, every promise, every shiny illusion, and wonder why they end up exhausted and empty-handed. They don't realize they've been bleeding themselves, dry chasing ghosts. Focus doesn't play that game. Focus understands that fortune isn't about how much you grab. It's about grabbing the right thing at the right time. One strike, not 1,000 stumbles. One clean decision, not a lifetime of messy half steps. Greed wants you to move fast, reckless, thoughtless. It wants you to jump before you've even seen where you'll land. Focus, though. It's patient. It's calm. It knows the world is always dangling bait, always testing who can be controlled by hunger and who can't. And the ones who can't be controlled, the ones who stay sharp, those are the ones who walk away with the real prize. Because the game isn't about who wants it the most. Everyone wants it. The game is about who can resist wanting everything long enough to seize the one thing that changes everything. Greed makes you loud. Focus makes you silent. Greed makes you clumsy. Focus makes you lethal. And when the moment comes, when the real chance finally appears, greed will be too busy chasing shadows to notice. Focus will already be there. Hand steady, mind clear, taking what was meant to be theirs. That's why the rich aren't the ones who wanted the most. They're the ones who wanted with discipline. They sharpened their desire into a weapon instead of letting it blind them like a drug. In the end, it's simple. Greed is hunger without direction. Focus is hunger with a target. One will drag you into every trap, every lie, every illusion. The other will cut through the noise and take the only opportunity that matters. And the difference between the two is the difference between losing everything and gaining it all. Fear is the sharpest leash they'll ever put around your neck. It doesn't rattle like chains. It doesn't clang like prison bars, but it holds tighter than anything you can see. Fear is invisible, which makes it stronger than any weapon. It whispers in your ear, tells you to stay still, tells you not to move, not to try, not to risk. It paints every shadow darker, every sound louder, every path more dangerous than it really is. And the best part, people obey it without ever questioning why. They bow to it, kneel before it, let it decide their future. Fear doesn't even have to prove itself. It only has to convince you to imagine the worst, and you'll chain yourself. Look around. Everyone is scared of something. Scared of failing, scared of being judged, scared of being left alone, scared of losing what little they have. And what do they do with that fear? Do they fight it, break it, burn it down? No, they feed it. They nurture it. They build their lives around avoiding it, like worshippers bowing before an invisible god. They don't live, they tiptoe. They don't climb, they crawl. They don't scream, they whisper. Fear makes them small, keeps them obedient, stops them from realizing how much power they actually have. Because if they weren't scared, who could control them? Fear sells. That's the biggest trick. People buy locks, alarms, lies, protection, distractions, all because fear told them they needed it. Entire systems run on fear. Leaders keep their thrones because the people are too scared to stand. Bosses bark orders and workers obey because fear whispers, if you don't, you'll lose everything. Families control each other because fear says, what if they leave you? Relationships shatter because fear insists, what if they hurt you first? Fear isn't just an emotion. It's an economy, a government, a religion. It's the invisible currency that buys obedience, silence, and surrender. And yet, fear itself is hollow. It's smoke. It's a shadow cast on the wall that looks bigger than the monster actually is. Step into it, face it head on, and you'll see how flimsy it really is. That's why the ones who rise above aren't the strongest or the smartest. They're the ones who walk straight through fear without stopping. They don't waste their lives building walls to keep it out. They laugh at it. They spit on it. They strip it of its disguise until it stands naked, trembling, powerless. And once you do that, you realize fear was never a leash. It was a test, a trick to see if you'd stay caged or if you'd break free. But here's the cruel twist. Fear will never go away. It's always waiting, always lurking. You can silence it for a moment, but it'll come back with a new mask, a new story, a new whisper. That's why so many give up. They thought they'd kill it once and be done. But fear isn't meant to be killed. It's meant to be ignored, outsmarted, overpowered again and again. It's the enemy that never dies, but also the enemy that can never truly win unless you let it. That's the real secret. Fear doesn't have power. You do. Fear only borrows it from you when you hand it over. Most people will live and die never realizing that. They'll spend their years bowing to the ghost of fear, making choices not because they wanted to, but because fear told them what not to do. And when their time is up, they'll look back and realize they never lived at all. They survived. They existed. But they didn't live, and all because of a whisper in their head that never had teeth. Fear doesn't destroy you. You destroy yourself when you listen to it. The ones who understand this, they move differently. They walk into the fire, not because they aren't scared, but because they know the fire burns weaker when you stop running from it. They take risks others call insane because they know insanity is better than regret. They see fear, feel it, taste it, but they don't bow. They grin at it. And that grin alone is enough to shatter fear's illusion. Because fear only controls those who tremble. It has no answer for the ones who laugh in its face. Greed, that delicious little itch no one admits they have. But everyone scratches when they think no one's watching. It's the quiet hunger in their eyes when they see something shiny, something forbidden, something they don't need but suddenly can't live without. They'll dress it up in pretty words. Ambition, success, hard work providing for the family. But underneath all the excuses, it's the same rotten core greed. The desire for more. Always more, never enough. That's what drives them. What poisons them. What makes them claw at each other like animals trapped in a cage. It doesn't matter how much they already hold in their hands. Greed whispers that it isn't enough. Give someone bread, and they'll want cake. Give them cake, and they'll demand a banquet. Give them a banquet, and they'll want the whole kingdom. That's how greed works. It doesn't fill you, it empties you. The more you take, the hungrier you get. It's a thirst that grows deeper the more you drink. And yet, people chase it with smiles on their faces, believing they're climbing higher when in truth, they're sinking into a bottomless pit. Greed isn't loud at first. No, it starts softly, like a flicker in the back of the mind. A little voice saying, "You could have more. Why stop here? Why settle?" And the moment you listen, the moment you lean in, it's over. That voice doesn't shut up. It grows louder, sharper, nastier. Soon, nothing satisfies you anymore. The things that once thrilled you now feel worthless. The victories you blowed for become meaningless the second you taste them, because greed already has its eyes on the next prize. And when you get there, it shifts again. Always dangling the next reward, always keeping you chasing, like a dog running after a bone it will never catch. Look at the world. It's built on greed. Entire empires, businesses, governments, all of them fueled by that endless hunger. Leaders don't rule because they care. They rule because they want more power, more control, more devotion. Corporations don't sell because they love you. They sell because they want more money, more markets, more slaves dressed as customers. Even families, friendships, relationships, greed creeps into those too. People don't just want love, they want more love than they deserve. More attention, more validation, more control over the people they claim to care about. Greed wears many masks, but the hunger underneath is always the same. And the funniest part, greed eats the greedy alive. It convinces them they're winning, but it's laughing at them, while it devours them piece by piece. They sacrifice everything chasing what they think will make them whole. Time, health, relationships, peace of mind. And when they finally clutch their prize, they realize it didn't fill the hole at all. It just made it bigger. They lie awake at night, surrounded by all they gathered, and still feel empty. That's the cruel joke of greed. It gives you everything you want, only to make you realize none of it was what you needed. But people won't admit it. They'll keep running, keep scratching, keep devouring, because stopping would mean facing the truth. That the hunger isn't outside, it's inside. That greed isn't about the money, or the power, or the applause. It's about trying to fill a void in the soul, a void that can't be filled by grabbing at the world. So they keep playing the game, convincing themselves they're climbing ladders, when really they're just spinning in a circle, faster and faster, until they collapse. The rare ones, the dangerous ones, are those who see greed for what it is. They don't run from it, but they don't bow to it either. They use it, they twist it, they let greed's fire burn, but they hold the match, not the flame. They know wanting more isn't evil. It's when the wanting controls you that you become a slave. And so they flip the game. They turn greed on itself. They hunger for meaning, not trophies. They crave freedom, not chains dressed as riches. They let the rest of the world fight like dogs over scraps. While they feast on something no one else can touch satisfaction. But most will never see that. They'll keep digging, keep clawing, keep chasing the next thing, until greed strips them bare and laughs over their bones. Because greed doesn't end when you get what you want. It ends when it gets all of you. Riches belong to the bold, not the desperate. That's the truth people choke on, because desperation looks a lot like ambition when you dress it up in fancy words. The desperate will chase, beg, claw, do whatever it takes just to get a taste. But that smell of hunger clings to them, and the world can smell it from miles away. Desperation doesn't attract wealth, it repels it. It makes people look weak, pathetic, easily manipulated. The bold, on the other hand, they don't chase riches. They stand still and watch riches come crawling to them. Why? Because boldness has a flavor of certainty, and certainty is what bends reality. Desperate people always move too fast, always panic, always reveal their cards before the game has even started. They want everything right now. And in wanting it so badly, they lose the very thing that could have made them powerful: patience. The bold play differently. They sit in silence while others scream. They watch while others scramble. They wait until the moment is perfect. Then strike so suddenly, it looks like they've been winning all along. And that's the trick. Boldness is not about recklessness. It's about the courage to wait without fear, the courage to act without hesitation. The desperate think opportunity knocks loudly, so they pound on every door they see, begging for an answer. The bold know opportunity whispers, so they listen carefully, and when they hear it, they don't ask for permission. They kick the door open. That's why riches choose them, because fortune doesn't trust the frantic. It trusts the fearless. Desperation reeks of weakness, but boldness tastes like power, and power attracts everything. Think about it. Every so-called lucky person you've ever heard of wasn't lucky at all. They were bold. They took the shot when everyone else was too scared. They risked being hated, being mocked, being broken. And because they dared to risk it, they got it. The desperate sit in corners whispering about luck, praying someone notices them, hoping for scraps. The bold walk into the room, flip the table, and take the feast. And the world lets them, because the world is terrified of anyone who refuses to play by its rules. Desperation is slavery. It keeps you on your knees, begging for scraps, while boldness teaches you to stand tall and demand what you came for. And riches, real riches, they're not just money, they're freedom, control, influence, the ability to move mountains with a word. Those things will never belong to the desperate, because desperation shows you're already owned. You're owned by fear, by hunger, by the endless ache of wanting. But the bold, oh, they own themselves first, and when you own yourself, the rest of the world becomes yours to command. Desperation makes you predictable. It makes you easy to corner, easy to trap, easy to play like a puppet. But boldness, real boldness, that makes you dangerous. Nobody can guess what you'll do. Because you're not guided by fear. You're guided by instinct sharpened into steel. You don't need validation. You don't need applause. You don't need permission. And that kind of freedom, that's priceless. That's what draws wealth, success, power, all the things the desperate will chase their whole lives and still never touch. People confuse noise with boldness, but they're wrong. Screaming about what you want, throwing tantrums when you don't get it, that's just another mask for desperation. True boldness doesn't need to shout. It speaks softly and still shakes the walls. It walks calmly into the fire while everyone else runs. Because boldness knows fear is an illusion, and illusions only control the blind. The bold aren't blind. They see the trap, the danger, the cost, and they move anyway. That's why riches bend to them. They recognize the strength of someone who isn't ruled by need. The desperate live their lives chasing. The bold live their lives choosing. That's the difference. One scrambles after crumbs, the other claims the throne. And the world, cruel as it is, respects the throne, not the beggar. Riches will always belong to the bold. Because the bold don't beg, they take. The bold don't hope, they decide. The bold don't wait to be chosen, they do the choosing. And in a world built on power, only those who dare to step out of line, only those who dare to demand more without flinching, only those who refuse to bow ever end up holding it all.